Welcome to my stream, guys. Um, as you know, all of my streams will be uploaded onto YouTube by default. So obviously, if you want to go back and have a listen, any analysis that I make, you just want to take note after the fact, then, it will be uploaded hopefully later today. So yeah, I'm gonna just start by by basically saying what a week so far, right? Um, so. you know, we were kind of on the ropes about, is Bitcoin going to push past initial resistance? I think that was around about 86,000, $87,000. I don't know, it was like 5, 6 days ago, something like that. To be honest, as soon as we started kind of squeezing here and possibly breaking out, then there was a good chance that Bitcoin was obviously gonna have a rally. Um, Now in terms of obviously the Bitcoin short that I called, you know, I did kind of start entering a short round about these swing highs here. So, you know, to be honest, it was only like 20% that I'd positioned, purely for the fact that, we could have seen a failure, possible deviation outside of the trend line. We didn't get that, which was fine. And then obviously this area here, the 92,000 area, was obviously previous swing highs, was really acting as some form of resistance, because you can see here we had um, previous touches onto this 91, 92K support area here, when we were trading around the 100K area, and obviously lost that as support. We pretty much broke past that with not really too much resistance. And we're at this pivotal point here where 95K was main major resistance for Bitcoin, and we have broken past it. Now, obviously, I do have obviously a daily stop loss at around 97K. This is pretty much around where you see the candles here, round about closing. I do expect to see Bitcoin at some point pull back, hence why I haven't closed my short. Obviously, I think my average is around this area here. And obviously we're trading slightly above that, which is fine. But I do expect that we will get some pullback soon. There isn't any confirmed top in place for Bitcoin at the moment. I would say for us to safely assume that there is a local top for Bitcoin, we would want to see a break below the previous low here. So I will highlight that. I'll also clean up this chart because it's starting to look a little bit crazy at the moment. So we can probably just remove some of these lines so it doesn't seem too excessive. We know what's what at the moment. Now this Fibonacci retracement that I drew will need to adjust. So we will need to adjust this as the price obviously continues to churn higher. So yeah, basically, it's been a good week for Bitcoin. It's been a very good week for some alts as well. Do I regret not jumping into some longs? A little bit, but you know, it was risky in the sense that we would be trading like breakout, which again is fine, but I much rather trade the actual pullback, right? So what I was looking for as confirmation that we would be going higher is 5 waves up. And I think I could safely say that we pretty much have 5 waves, to be honest. This is pretty much a five-wave move on Bitcoin. Um, and we've basically reached the target area, which was around the $94,000-$95,000 area, for a fifth wave. Now, once we start the three-wave pullback, um, and obviously that, as I said, is going to be confirmation below this 91,700 level, we could see, basically a three-wave move down. Um, a healthy, I'd say a healthy pullback, basically in a three-wave move down. I would say really you would at bare minimum you would want to get to the 38.2% retracement area. Um, Also 50% is fine. Anything below the 82.6K area, I would say, might be questionable if Bitcoin is going to hold a higher low. Now, I don't want to speculate, but we could possibly begin that pullback pretty soon. Next week could be a bloody week, and we could begin the pullback, and we could retest this trend line. Because I suspect, at some point when you have a trend line breakout, you normally would retest the trend line. So, I would possibly say, maybe in the next few days, people are asking me when would we see a potential pullback. I would say that we are close. We're close. I think we are very close because 95K, 95.5K, that's kind of your area where you would expect to see Bitcoin pull back. Okay? So, yeah, that's pretty much what we're seeing on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been strong. Um, I'm not going to be too salty about this because you know what? I think it was pretty dumb. I mean, to be fair, I was sleeping, but regardless, I still think it was pretty dumb that I just didn't wake up and basically just say, "Hey." So it's kind of missed my entry. I've moved this up now based on just putting some support and levels on here. But my entry, I think it was like 74,250. It like front run it, and you can see we've basically like I don't know. I don't even know if I want to know, but yeah, we did like a 28% move on Bitcoin, which is huge, right? Um, so yeah, I probably should have just like woken myself up and woken everyone up and just been like, hey, market enter Bitcoin because you're gonna miss this pump. Um, and I was sleeping on both occasions, which was crazy because yeah, we pretty much had this double bottom. Double bottoms don't always hold, but on this occasion it happened to hold, which obviously is beneficial. But yeah, as I said, definitely looking at Bitcoin pulling back, hopefully before we get above the 97,300 area, which is kind of where my soft stop loss daily closure is. I would like to see Bitcoin kind of pull back, and then obviously, yeah, for proper confirmation that we will be pulling back further, we do need to break that last swing low. Okay. Um, and to be honest, like that's the only reliable way we can say that we're getting a pullback, right? I mean, people can enter shorts now, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea, but Bitcoin can push higher. We could easily push to like 9,900K, where these previous swing highs were. That's not impossible to happen, right? So we just don't have confirmation that we have topped. So there is obviously risk, but there is risk with longing. I mean, it would probably be a little bit insane to long right now, right? Because we had opportunities. Um, for me, I wanted like a very good RR trade, hence why I wanted to long from here, and I wasn't too keen on longing a breakout. Um, you know, in hindsight, could I have done it? Possibly. But I don't regret being in my short at the moment because, you know, average entry isn't too horrendous right now. Um, and, you know, we should be we should be seeing a pullback soon, I hope. Um, so yeah, that's probably all to say on Bitcoin. What has also been another interesting chart to look at is USDT dominance, right? So USDT dominance has been falling, and I could say this now, we have technically broken below a previous major low. We've got the swing low here, right? We also had a previous swing low here, but I was more kind of eyeing up this swing low because this, in my opinion, was more important. Now we can see that obviously we're broken below that. We did try to get above it, but we failed, and we are now possibly breaking the 50% fib level on this higher time frame Fibonacci retracement view. Okay, now for USDT dominance to turn around, you would expect it to hold this 50% retracement area. If not, really, really real last resort is the 61.8% golden pocket region. Okay, you can see there was a lot of trade in between this region. This was basically a range. We broke above that range, and you know we did on USDT dominance. To be fair, we did break above this previous swing high here. Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens at this point because technically, if we look at it on the daily, let's look at it on the daily. So I mean, I've been watching USDT dominance for some time now. So if we look at this, you can see that we have this trend line, and we've touched it multiple times. One touch there, almost two touch, three touch, four touch, breakout. This isn't really a proper breakout. All I see this as is a deviation above trend line. Okay, so this is just a deviation. I wouldn't say this is a breakout. What I would have wanted to see from USDT dominance to say that this was a proper breakout is for us to get above this previous swing high, and we did not. We failed, deviation back down, testing, fib support, and we have this golden pocket area here that we test. Now, I think it's going to be very, very important to see what happens once Bitcoin does begin its pullback, and we're going to have to keep a very close eye on what USDT dominance does. Okay, because you know, depending on where we stop on USDT dominance here before we get a pullback, I'm going to hedge my bets and say that it will be around this zone. Okay, so this is basically where I would potentially see USDT dominance basically bouncing up at this point and having some kind of trend reversal. Okay. Now, obviously, the question is going to be, where is that going to potentially land us? And, you know, this is where you can't really predict what will happen, right? We either get this bounce from USDT dominance, have a swing failure pattern where or we get above the trend line and then just fail here and make equal highs and then just drop back below. Or the other alternative is that we push past the previous high. and we push past the trend line. So it's a bit of a dodgy situation in the sense that you can't really predict what will happen at this point. Um, all I could tell you is that this is basically we are technically in a downtrend for USDT dominance. We are still technically in a downtrend. On the daily, we're in a downtrend. This is essentially our downtrend. Okay, we made a marginally lower low here. Okay, and yeah, and obviously the question is going to be, are we going to continue to push higher, or are we going to break down and we reject off of the trend line, so we can't get back over it, and and then we eventually break out of this support area here, which is like the 3.77% region, and we get our bull run. So at the moment I can't tell you which way it's going to go. I can't tell you which way it's going to go because we don't have any confirmation yet of if we're going to break this support or if we're going to break past the trend line. The only thing I could say is that we did attempt to break out of that trend line, and it was a deviation and we got sent back down. Okay. So that might have been trapping a lot of people that were, short on alts, expecting that, that's it. Like we're gonna go into a bear market. Hasn't happened yet. I still think that we will get one more high. I've had this chart open for a long time. I mean, I've had this zone drawn out for a very long time. I had suggested that the 73.5, 74K area was a buy zone. We didn't quite get there, but it was around this area was definitely a buy zone. And do I think that we will see that 130, 140K? Yes, possibly. But that all, as I said, depends on Bitcoin holding that higher low. Okay. So really optimistic in the sense that, we have broken out of this trend line. And this was a trend line I'd been following for a while, and I think we've all been following it. It started off at, on the 20th of January where we had that all-time high, and we've broken that trend line. Now we need to see if we get continuation, right? What you don't want to see happen is Bitcoin's broken out and then we come to retest, but we can't hold the higher low. We just fall back into the trend line, and then this ends up being our last resort buy zone before we reattempt to break out. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be bearish. It wouldn't be bearish if we couldn't hold the higher low and dipped into support again. Like fully dipped into this support area. I wouldn't say it would be bearish. You can see that there's a lot of confluences here. There's basically a lot of volume in this area. Okay, so I wouldn't say it would be bearish. What I would say would be bearish is if we broke below that swing low here at around $67,000. We break below that, then I will be bearish, and then I will say that I think we're heading into a bear market. At the moment, Bitcoin's just pushing higher, and it may continue to push higher. As I said, we just need to keep an eye on it. We need to keep an eye on Bitcoin. We need to keep an eye on USDT, and it does look like USDT does want to possibly drop to that golden pocket area. And you can see that we possibly have like this area here, this area here that we would potentially tap on USDT dominance. So let's look at Solana. Now, I mean, yeah, I was in a Solana short. I was kind of, you know, kind of banking on the fact that Solana might slow down a little bit at $150. Um, I wouldn't say it's hugely slowed down. I mean, we have obviously seen some level of resistance here, but I mean, you can see that we are holding this this previous low here, this swing low that we saw here around $133 would not even come close. Now, this has changed a little bit in the sense that instead of looking at $133 or 143, in order for a top to be confirmed for Solana, I would be looking at this swing low here to be broken. Okay, so this I would say is the swing low. If we, for instance, get one more push from Solana, if it pushes up a little bit more, and then we start dropping, and we break below that $145 region, that previous low that we have here, that would be a good time to assume that we will go lower. So, you know, you might see something like this, and then we would just drop back down. Let me just also, while I'm at it, adjust this level. So our support starts to look like this. So yeah, with Solana, obviously it kind of pushed higher than it's not pushed higher than, like, you know, what would be bizarre and weird, you know, for a final wave 5 for Solana to push up. You know, it's not overextended. But obviously, you know, it's pushing past not even minimum expectations, but you know, this is a full wave 5 now, right? You can see that we had a previous swing high here around $151, $152. That's why I was kind of eyeing that up as like our, you know, 4-hour candle close stop loss area. You know, again, it may push a bit higher, but we are, if you look at the RSI, we are seeing bearish divergence on the RSI. And I suspect quite a few coins will be showing that as well. So we are showing bearish divergence, quite strong bearish divergence. And you can see that, you know, I think we are getting close to a top. I think we are getting close to a top on most altcoins. If we jump on Sui, Sui has been performing really, really well. It's been performing really, really well. Now, you know, obviously my entry for shorting it was around $3.97. You know, I might end up getting front run again, and you know, this could be the area, because to be honest, it's extended high enough. Like, it's extended high enough. If we literally take a fib and we have a look, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is extended high enough. Let's have a look. I might just add this just for the sake of it. Where is that gonna take us? Yeah, okay. So I mean, maybe. Maybe we've topped. Maybe we've topped with Sui. For me, I would say that yeah, I mean, you know, this was the 38.2 retracement region on the higher time frame for Sui. So we take the low, the high to low. We have we've almost reached the 618, and then this is the reason why I had a short around 3.97, $3.98 is because there is that golden pocket region. Now, you know, we do have resistance here at around $3.76, okay? 3.74, $3.75. This is your previous swing high here. But we obviously do have some confluence here as well. You can see that we also bounced off of this $4 region previously here. So, you know, it's hard to say if we've topped. I think we're going to have to obviously look at the next few hours of candle closures. Again with SUI, like if I see a break below this swing low here around $3.22, then it might be a sign that we have topped. And then we can obviously watch for a pullback. So in terms of support for SUI, I'm looking at SUI by the way because SUI has been very, very strong. It's been one of the strongest coins that I've seen so far. So yeah, I mean we've got confluence between these two fib levels here. Sorry, let's just move that. Yeah, so we've got confluence here around the $3 region, $3.10, $3 region. You can see there was also some resistance here, not huge, just kind of on the lower time frame. You can see it. And then the next level below that would be this region here, around a 50% retracement area. But then you can also see we've got some swing highs that were here previously at the golden pocket 618 level. I'm not saying SUI will drop all the way there, but you know, can happen. I do expect a pullback. I do expect a pullback. And you know, I mean, we don't necessarily have to. We don't have to, you know, technically test the trend line itself when we break out, because that may possibly be unrealistically low, right? I mean, if we literally looked at this, yeah, I mean the 786 level doesn't even, you know, unless it's gonna test it in the next 3-4 days. I mean, I don't think that will happen. So we don't necessarily have to come down to this level. This kind of more looks like a falling wedge, really. And you would expect a retest of around possibly the $250 region. Maybe initially around the $276. So I would say where I've basically drawn this area here, that's kind of like your first small area of support. But I would probably expect SUI to retrace back down to this area here. So yeah, we might retrace here. And as long as we hold that higher low, we can then calculate where we expect SUI to go after that. Okay. So assuming, for instance, that SUI gets to around $250, then in terms of where we expect SUI to go, it would be around the 1.382 to 1.618 fib levels. So between the $5.4 and 5.89, yeah, I think that's 5.89. Yeah, $5.9 area, which funny enough lines up exactly with the previous swing high. So this is very predictive. This is very kind of me assuming that, you know, if we have topped, then we may get a bounce at this $3 region. Um, but then we may just see one final pullback down to around the 2.77 to $2.5 region. That is where I would probably be going along for SUI. Definitely within this zone here is your buy zone. Um, I don't I don't think I'd really be going long in this region just because I would expect a deeper pullback. Um, yes, we're bullish, and everyone's super hyped, and retail's coming in, and everyone's excited, and they're gonna like 100x their port. But I don't think we're gonna get away with it that easily. I think we will get a half decent pullback. Um, we could possibly draw a trend line. This is a bit premature because we would only have about two touches. Um, yeah, I mean, you never know. Maybe next week I'll be talking about how Sui got to $2.5, or I'll be talking about how wrong I was and we basically blasted off to $6. So, so yeah, I suppose we're just gonna have to see what happens. But Sui has definitely been strong. It's good to see. It's good to see Sui strong because to be honest, this was a very deep pullback. This was a very deep pullback. I mean, if you look at the previous swing low here, um, yeah, this was deep. I mean, I would not have wanted it to even lose the 2.5 dollar mark. But we dropped below this area and this is deep. Okay, this is deep. But we can see that, you know, we have quite an impulsive move up. You can possibly even class this as an impulse up. But as I always say, um, I don't know if it looks like a five-wave move at the moment, to be honest. I don't know if it looks like a five-wave move. Um, let's have a look. It just looks like an overextended three-wave. It really does. There's different ways of interpreting this. If you wanna interpret this as a five-wave move, then there is obviously more confidence buying into this area that we will bounce and we will, um, you know, either make equal highs or push higher than that. If you see this as a three-wave move, it becomes a little bit um, more complicated, and you need to just be very sensible with your position sizing here. I mean, you always have to be sensible with your position sizing. I always tell people that risk management is the most important thing. I myself, on earlier days, um, liquidated my account when I was first starting. I was a complete degen. I just would make a trade and throw my entire port into it, and even if it went the right way, if it slightly went the wrong way, slightly, you would liquidate me. So, um, I always say to people, just be careful, just risk a small amount. I get some people might be playing with small money, like $100 or whatever. Even if you make like $5 or $10 from a trade, um, it'll accumulate. It will accumulate. Trading is not a race, it's a marathon. And I think there's a massive emotional aspect when it comes to trading. I know I'm going to go off on a rant, but it's a massive emotional aspect of making sure that you only risk a small amount per trade, stick to it. Do not deviate from that. Do not think, oh my God, I'm super confident about this. My port is $1,000. I'm going to risk $500 on this trade. It's not worth it because and it's a big if, but if it goes the wrong way, you're going to be sweating and really upset that you have basically lost so much of what you had been gaining, right? You were gaining like $30, $40 on your win. You end up risking that $500, and now you have to basically win another 10 trades just to get that money back. The thrill and, the excitement of the gamble might feel good, but I can tell you from experience, it's not worth it because, you know, I'm sure most of us don't have infinite amounts of money. And, you know, as much as we'd love to just like burn money all the time on this, it's probably just not the most sensible thing to do. So risk management is definitely one of the most important um, aspects of trading. Not being emotional about your trades, just seeing it as this is a chart, this is how much I'm going to risk, here is my stop loss, here is my final take profit. You can trim along the way. That's the end of it. You say to yourself, okay, I've got $100. I'm gonna risk $10. I mean, yeah, that's 10%, but okay, maybe let's say $5. So I've got $100 and I'm gonna risk $5, right? If it hits my stop loss here, I would lose $5. If it gets to this here, I'd gain about $30. And you do this strategy, you've just turned your $100 into $130, and you repeat that for 6 months and you see where you get to. I can guarantee you, if you follow the signals that a lot of us are releasing, you will at the very least double your port in the next 3-4 months at the very least. Anyway, rant over. That's what I wanted to say on that topic. Let's just see how this looks at the moment. Sui does look like it's retracing, but we need to just keep an eye on that swing low there. As I said, $3.22. That's pretty much what we're eyeing up. Let's have a look at Link. I know you guys are going to be saying to me, "Oh my God, Link again for real." You guys know how I feel about Link. I love Link. Link is amazing. Anyway, so here's a plus side, right? This might actually be more obvious if I go on the 4-hour time frame. So there were a couple of trend lines. I've got trend lines all over the place, but you know, there's a couple of trend lines here. This was a trend line I was following, and we did test it. I think it was like, yeah, it was like a week, 10 days ago, something like that. Sorry, where am I looking here? Yes. Yeah, sorry, it was like 5 days ago. So it was a few days ago we tested it, small pullback, and then we broke through. This is a nice upward move. You know, I mean, this in general possibly is going to be a nice trade if we get it. I don't know if we're really going to get $12 again on Link. It would be nice. I don't know if we will, but it would be nice. I will obviously reevaluate if we end up breaking this $16 previous high. That's the only thing about Link chart at the moment, though. It's not really broken any major highs, so I would have liked to have seen this high broken. And we have this kind of move to the upside and kind of push above. We haven't seen that yet, so it's a little bit sus. But I do have obviously confidence in Link that Link is going to do quite well. I mean, to be fair, we aren't hugely off of what the bear market lows for Link were. I mean, what was Link? It was about between $5 and $8, and we're at like $14. So I still genuinely think that Link is a steal right now. And I mean, let's look at it on the higher time frame, right? Let me get rid of this trend line because we don't need it anymore. So what I can see happening possibly is that Link does push higher, but if Bitcoin decides to start pulling back now, we need to obviously see what Ethereum is doing as well, and then we'll obviously see what happens with Link. You can see that coins follow coins follow coins. A lot of things do follow Bitcoin, but if Bitcoin started tanking quite hard right now, then obviously that could potentially bring a lot of altcoins down. But, as I said, it would have been nice to see Link slightly push higher. But it has broken out of that original trend line I was looking at. I do hope, and I think we could get a retest of this region here if that was obviously, let me just make sure that this is the top. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I mean we can see there's a lot of confluences down here around the 13.4, $12.8 area. I don't I'd love if we got $12 again, but I just don't think we will. But I'd love it because, you know, this looks pretty promising. This does look pretty promising. Um, is it a five-wave move? I still don't think it is a five-wave move. You know, it's not got the right look of a five-wave move to me, but let's just give the bulls the benefit of the doubt and say it is a five-wave move. Um, then we can possibly go in on that pullback. Remember, we're looking for a three-wave move down, okay? We're looking for a three-wave move down. Typically, wave one is as long as wave three. So that's kind of what we're looking for, right? And then we'll assess how, our wave one and wave two is looking. And then obviously based on that, we can obviously, we can predict whereabouts that wave three is gonna end. And that is obviously gonna be our entry point, right? That's where I would like to see us enter on Link. This at the moment is just kind of like a rough idea. I did post a signal, but I will obviously make sure that I update everyone because it's technically moving, right? It's a moving signal. When you push higher, your support zones change for a pullback, and you need to account for that. Otherwise, you will be possibly just waiting forever and it will never hit because you haven't adjusted your Fibonacci areas. Um, so I would like to see this on Link. I mean, to be honest, if we get a pullback and we have we have any price movement within this region, then for me this is a buy zone. Like $17.7 is kind of like, I would say, leveraged target area, but if you're looking at spot, I mean, I would be targeting all the way to $30. I ain't gonna lie, I would definitely be targeting all the way to $30. But again, that spot leverage, you would just be happy with. Um, I mean, me personally, on leverage, I'd be happy with just seeing some kind of pullback and then, us going up and testing this trend line and taking a good level of profit there because, you know, um, if we even adjusted it to be at the 50% fib level, then yeah, I mean it's almost a five RR. I mean it's decent. It's decent. Like yeah, I wouldn't really have any complaints about this. Um, so that is Link. Doggy, yeah, Doggy. I mean, I don't know, man. Like I looked at it last night and I was like, yeah, this can run. It can run. Could run. Getting rejected though. Getting rejected and not closing any. Well, I mean, okay, you know, we had a candle close above this resistance here at 0.185, but then we closed the candle back below it. And we're slightly going down. I mean, look, maybe the signal is going to just turn out to be awesome and it will just go to 21 cents and I would have eaten my own words. But I gotta say, Doggy has been like not the best performing alt. I gotta say it. Um, it's just not looked very good. I mean, you know, we have a similar structure, in the sense that we've got this falling wedge. And it did touch my buy zone, which I think I mentioned last time I didn't have a limit order because, I'm stupid. Um, and it was like 13 cents pretty much. Yeah, like literally bang on the money. Um, and we had a good reaction. I can't cuss down Doggy too much because from that low we have moved up about 40%. I can't cuss it down too much. But It just doesn't look as strong as I would like it to look. Um, if doggy ends up retracing now and pulling back, and we start going below this previous swing low here. Let's have a look at this on the slightly lower time frame. Yeah, so again, this is what I see on a lot of charts. If we if we close or at least break below this level and sustain breaking below this level, then there is a good chance that we will possibly go down further. Okay, but that's where I'd be catching a lot of these on the pullback. This um, this long is not going to be valid anymore if that happens, which is, I mean, I pretty much close it, so I probably don't need to keep it up here anyway. To be honest, I would probably be, yeah, I mean, I'd let's have a look. Let's just see what the fib levels are giving us right now. If we just took fib, yeah. So, okay, so you're looking at possibly around this area as a possible buy zone, maybe even lower, maybe even lower. But yeah, let's see it. Let's see what happens here. I think there are better looking coins. There are better looking coins. I think I was looking at AVAX the other day as well. AVAX doing all right, It's not doing too bad. I think we've also finally what I'm curious about. I'm curious of the length of the A wave. So we got A wave, B wave, C wave. Okay, so we've got three wave move down. Three wave move down on the higher time frame. A, B, C, which leaves the door open for higher prices. As long as we don't break below this level. Okay. Now let me just remove that. So yeah, let us possibly draw this a bit better actually, because that's terrible. I can live with that. Cool. Yeah, I can live with that. Okay. I mean, again, I would have liked to have seen us push past this previous swing high and above resistance here, basically. We haven't got that. Only problem with that is you can say that this is a deviation and we could go back lower. So, I mean, to be honest, the main guy here is Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the main is the main guy that's stealing the show at the moment. Still potential for higher. I mean, as I said, we've not broken. We need to break below 91,700. We need to break below that level for confirmation. We haven't. Still chances that we can go higher. One more coin I wanted to show you guys. You know what, this was nice because I bought this at like 0.127 and I closed it because I was a chicken. But you see this green line? That was my TP for my short and I reversed. Yeah, I was crazy not to hold this. I was crazy not to hold this because this was such a good long. Honestly, it was such a good long. I'm literally kicking myself for number one, not calling it, and number two, not holding it for longer. Anyway, so we had this trend line on H bar that we have broken through, which is good. H bar is I like how H bar is looking purely because you can see we had this swing high here. We broke just above it. We broke just above it. So yeah, I mean, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. We broke a little bit above it. I mean, obviously we're coming back down a little bit. Um, it would have been nice if H bar got a little bit higher. I would have liked to have seen it get a little bit higher. Maybe even 50% of this previous high here, this wick, around 21 cents. It would have been nice if it got that high. If we pull back now, totally fine. Totally fine for us to pull back now. You know, this is pretty full, this move. Again, you know, I'm eyeing up these regions here. So around 0.165, 0.173, around there. I mean, look, I'm pretty sure. I'll just make this a little bit fatter. Let's make it, actually no, let's not make it green because everything's green on here, right? Let's make it orange. Let's make it orange. Yeah, so if you look, you know, this was a previous swing high from like forever ago, right? It was like a year ago. And that was at around 18 cents. This was obviously, you can see here, we broke through it, tapped, 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 broke through, retest, broke down, retest, retest, broke through. So this has been kind of like an area of support resistance flipping. Okay. Just pretty much not, it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly 18 cents, but it's basically around this zone here. We could just basically retrace now and just tap the 38.2 retracement zone, which is around 0.173 cents, and off we go. Quite possible. I'd love for it to get a little bit lower, but we've kind of flipped back this area. I'd be more confident about saying we've flipped it back if we really closed above this 20 cent area, but we haven't. But as I said, I'm going to give the bulls benefit of the doubt at the moment and say, fine, you know, maybe we just pull back, you know, retest this trend line, and off we go, onwards and upwards to at the very least 28 cents. So that is all I have to say on that. Let me just open the chat on here if anyone has any coins they want me to have a look at. Harry, hey Harry, yeah, what do you think about TRX? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'll stay on a little bit longer just to answer this question, but throat's getting a bit dry. All right, TRX, Tron. Gotta love Tron. Right, let's have a look. This chart looks wild. It's a wild chart. All right, let's have a look. Let's identify. Everything's going to be orange for me now. I can live with that. So this was your flip resistance. Haven't retested it. Let's take a fib. Low to high. It's quite nice actually. Bang on 20 cents was the golden pocket region. You know what's grimy though? I bet you only mind the market makers didn't give you that 20 cents, did they? 0.2011. Imagine the people who like literally limit orders at 20 cents would be dying. Feels like me when I was trying to long Bitcoin at 74K, but anyway, we won't talk about that. Right. Um, I mean, we bounced from the golden pocket, but we're still trading under the 50% fib level. So it's hard to say if I would touch this or not. I mean, it's not not really moved, has it? It's not really moved with the market. Do you know what, Harry? I'd say there's better coins out there. There's better coins out there. Um, I mean, yeah, it's pretty hard to, you can say, all right, is this forming some kind of cup and handle maybe, but I don't know. I'd like to see it break above the 50% fib level and also above that previous high, but it's trading underneath it. I wouldn't touch it personally. Personally, I wouldn't touch it. I mean, as I said, there's better coins out there. Um, there's better coins out there. Like if you look at ADA, Cardano, um, you know, we had this trend line broke out. Perfect retest. Ain't gonna lie, that was a perfect retest. Um, but we haven't got back over the previous high. So, but I mean, I'd say Cardano looks a bit more promising. You know, I mean, it tapped the 786 perfectly. I mean, that's kind of the area you wanna not break. You don't want to break that area. Um, you can see this was the golden pocket area, struggling to hold, deviation, holding, broke down, retest, back over. Yeah, I mean, there's better coins. Anyway, I am super, super over time. But I will probably end it there. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining my stream. Really appreciate it. Um, I'm always trying to look for good trades for you guys. Sorry about Sol. I mean, I'm kind of hoping that we obviously, I mean, look at it now. Like maybe I close it too early. Maybe I close it too early. Let's find out, right? Let's see if it ends up breaking $145, and then obviously I can, go and kick myself and be really annoyed. Um, but it's fine. Let's see what happens. I think the weekend is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting. And to be honest, crypto has been interesting for the past few months. To be honest, it's been crazy with this tariffs and all this craziness. So let's just see how it goes. I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. Trade safely and peace out.